Lemkin Solitaire and Equalizer seeders and planters offer disruptive innovation like vertical banding, dry and or liquid onboard fertilizer, and great prices. Go to lemkindemo.com for more information and to request a demo.
The Agronomist is brought to you by the Successors, FMC Pre-School, and Nutrien eKonomics. Find the answers for today's ag challenges on The Dirt. Brought to you by eKonomics, The Dirt provides expert conversations on nutrient management, markets, weather, and current trends shaping agriculture. Join Mike Howell for Season 4 as he digs into new insights, new guests, and new topics that will help you make better decisions on your farm. Listen to The Dirt on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or visit Nutrien-economics.com. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Agronomists. I am your host, Lyndsey Smith, and it is, is it supposed to be in like a lion, out like a lamb? Because March kind of came in like a lion, went out like a lion, at least where I'm from. Terrible ice storm the last few days here in Ontario. We fared okay, and as you can see, we've actually got power, which is more than I can say for some, but super thankful to be turning the page on March and headed into April as of tomorrow. I am super excited to have this conversation that we're going to have tonight. We're going to talk about the busy season, the silly season, and navigating said season and all the things that come with it. Great to see everybody already in the chat. Some great questions already coming in, so please get them in there. We're going to talk just about anything. The floor is open. Let's put it that way. So trying to do a few more of these agronomists where we look at sort of the people side, the business side of being an agronomist or working in agronomy and in agriculture. And already someone is, or a few people have talked about trying to find summer help. Maybe you guys just don't have enough sheep because we had a banner year hiring summer students already. So there you go. Okay, a quick reminder, of course, if you collect those CEU credits, head on over to realagriculture.com/agronomists tomorrow. Let us know that you took in the program and we'll get those CEU credits to you. Now, great to hear how everybody's faring, where you're from. Please let us know in the comments where you're joining us from. Hello to everyone that is usually here. It's great to see you again. We're going to bring in our guests, and I'm super excited to bring in Terry Aberhart from Langenburg, Saskatchewan. Yes, I got it right.
That's right.
It's not Langenburg, everybody. And Joanna Wallace from Seaforth, Ontario. Joanna with Syngenta. Terry with MMP AgIntellect, which I'll get used to it. It's fine. Welcome here, Joanna. This is your first time on the show.
It is. Thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's been several years and you've never said yes. So that's why you're now.
It's always when we get together, we see, we go down rabbit holes and other things. That's and right. I don't know if that's what you guys all want to listen to. So
that's true. But tonight there will be. Terry, I was sharing just before we went live. The last time I think I was on one of your farm tours out in Langenburg and getting attacked by cleavers. But do tell what keeps you busy out in that neck of the woods. And because MMP AgIntellect is kind of new, maybe we can touch on who that is and who it's all made up of, just as an introduction to the agronomists here on the chat.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Lyndsey, and recalling the fun time we had at the field day. We've been doing a few of those for quite a few years. So we farm out here. That's kind of the core passion out at Langenburg, Saskatchewan with my family, my wife, and 6 kids. And we've been running an agronomy business for about 20 years now. And we originally were part of the Nutrien group back in the day. That's when you were tromping around with us here. And most recently, in September, we merged with 6 other agronomy businesses across the prairies into MMP to form an agronomy group within MMP. And that AgIntellect kind of brand or banner is what we'll be falling under, along with some of their other specialty agronomic and consulting services. So I think for us, it's kind of interesting, the discussion that we're going to have around today about the people side of the business and those kind of things. And really what we've seen in our business here is the value that we had of being part of a larger network and the learning and the sharing, and how, I mean, especially nowadays, even more so than ever, technology and AI and all these things are moving faster than ever. How do you keep up to the pace of change? And how do we help farmers overcome the challenges that they're facing? And that's getting more and more every day, it seems. And so many of us are all trying to recreate the same wheels. And so, yeah, there was a group of us that felt we would benefit by forming a firm structure together. And then in those discussions, we thought that it would be great to partner with MMP, as they had a lot of the data and the things that we were looking for. And so we've been having a lot of fun so far. And it's been really cool to see all the things and the sharing that's going on and the things that we're going to do together. So it's been kind of reinvigorating a little bit of the fun stuff that we've been doing in the past and what we hope to do in the future. So little story on that.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that is a part of this evening's discussion, and what I want to be able to bring in is the understanding that the business that agronomists are in, that, you know, people in extension, et cetera, during, you know, yes, there's conference season and there's the relatively slow time of winter, although sometimes I think that just gets eaten up with other things. But when we hit the ground running and when we hit the growing season, it really can just be an absolute intense time. And obviously we stick with it for lots of good reasons, but it doesn't mean it's always easy. And so that is definitely one of the things that, you know, I want to touch on tonight is the tools and the resources available, obviously to keep the job going smoothly, and also, of course, taking care of ourselves and our people in this business, because that is a really key one. Now, Joanna, based in the Seaforth area, you've been an agronomist a long time. Share with the audience sort of the area that you cover, and what is your favorite part of your role with Syngenta there?
Yeah, so I'm currently a territory sales rep with Syngenta in the Great Lakes region, and work with an awesome team of agronomists with Syngenta. And yeah, I've been there for 8 years, working in seed and crop protection, now focusing mainly on crop protection. And prior to that, I was actually an agronomist for a large grower and seed dealership. So spent a lot of days on my own, making the decisions on my own, not a lot of team around me. So I do enjoy now a team environment again. And before that role, I was actually working in retail and getting to know the retail side of it. So I like to think that I can approach it from all angles: retail, farm, and crop protection company now, and really give that different perspective. All roles are different for agronomy in that, you know, retail, you were there hours and hours of the day waiting for, you know, the last load of fertilizer to go out. With the on-farm agronomy, you know, it was up to me to set the schedule and get the work done. And now with being with Syngenta, it's a lot more of, you know, being there when the phone rings and answering those questions as they come in, and also setting up trials and things like that, scouting, looking at problems and looking at success as well. We often forget about scouting for those success.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Joanna, because I think sometimes we focus so much on what goes wrong and maybe don't spend enough time highlighting, hey, this went right. And that's good. These are good things.
Yeah. More calls like that are wanted. So, you know, if something looks good, call your agronomist.
Please call your agronomist and be like, this looks good. Yes, people will love that. Okay. So on that, to that end, and there's been a couple questions on hiring already. And I mean, the two of you have very different backgrounds, but exactly that, sort of being able to experience, you know, being very independent, but also working in a broader team and drawing from that. Terry, I'll ask you, you know, there does seem to be for many a real challenge in attracting really great talent or keeping that talent. So how has your team sort of broached that? How do you approach that?
Yeah, that's really a good question. I mean, it's always a challenge finding great people in agriculture, especially. I think for us within the agronomy business and everything that we're involved in, we've really tried to focus on building the values that we work around and the vision of what we're doing, and trying to find people that align with that. One of the things that we've learned over time in implementing some of the different systems or processes, like we really use the entrepreneurial operating system kind of framework within our other companies. And so you kind of learn through that there's no bad people. They're either just not in the right seat or they're not aligned with your values, right? And so if they're not in the right seat, maybe just find a different spot, or and if they're not aligned with your values, and they're just maybe a great person, but just find somewhere else where it is more aligned with their values. And so I think when you create that right culture, it creates a lot of fun and good stuff in the work environment, and it really attracts people. And so that's what I experienced early on in the culture of Agritrend way back in the day. I mean, it was a pretty incredible culture and attracted a lot of amazing people. And that's kind of a little bit of what we're experiencing too within the group that we reformed here, in a sense. Really aligned in what we want to do, and we're honestly having a lot of fun. I mean, no one wants to work. I've been worked in those places where the culture sucked, to be honest, and you just couldn't wait to leave. And I always thought, I don't want to be part of those types of cultures. And so for me, that's a big part of it. And then I guess also just having that ability, especially if you're trying to attract young people or great talent. What are the opportunities for people to learn and grow, right? And so that can become more challenging in different areas if you're more rural or wherever it may be, but also there's always opportunity if you can lay out what you have to offer in the right way. So,
so that is, for anyone who's curious, EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Traction is just one of the books that you can read if you're curious about it. We use it here at Real Agriculture. It's super cool. It's not super complicated, which I think is the great part about it. It really does make you hone in, though, on exactly that. Do you have the right roles laid out, and then do you have the right people in those roles? And you're exactly right. Sometimes they're going to be great at something else, but they're just not right for the role that they're in. And frankly, sometimes we end up in those same positions where we maybe already recognize we're not the right person for said job, speaking from experience. So that's why I'm here, hosting the Agronomists, everybody. I can't do anything else. This is it. This is all I got. Okay, now it does, though, Joanna, as you shared, and both of you, I mean, you've got plenty of years in this business. We have lots more to go. I'm not going to age us that much. We have many more years ahead. But Joanna, how important is it to you in that team atmosphere to be able to learn new things, try new things, do new things for your own enjoyment of your job, and to be able to attack every year with gusto?
Oh, for sure. It's an integral part. Like we, with the trials we do every year, new products coming down, or just getting more out of older products that we work with, trying new ways of application, things like that. It keeps things fresh. I mean, part of the reason why I rolled from my previous job was, it was the same thing year over year over year at the same farm, and I was looking for that change, that difference. It's been great here at Syngenta with new products. There's a bit of a high that comes with that, getting it out there, hearing the response. But then, when things settle down, there's still work to be done to keep things fresh on the older technology and that too.
Mm-hmm. Mark wants to know if there's any words longer than 5 letters in Traction. Entrepreneurial is probably the longest. So if you can handle that one, Mark, you're fine. Yeah. So Joanna, that is one of the things that I think the always having something new, and it doesn't have to be like earth-shattering new, but just being able to say, like, here's something new this season, this year, whether it's a new product, a new approach, a new way to, a new trial, a new way to do things, is really, in that for a lot of people is very motivating, and I think is incredibly important to. And this is an industry where you can't know it all. So long as you're curious, there will always be new things.
Something
Yeah, go ahead,
Something that
Joanna.
I was thinking of and talking with another agronomist today too was, just as agronomists, we're not just, making recommendations and hoping things go well. We care about those crops. And in some cases, we care more than the people actually growing the crop. So that's why we come with all these new ideas and new products, new things to change, because we want to see everyone do something new and better, and the plants grow better and everything. So really, it's, as agronomists, we wouldn't do that if we weren't fully invested that way.
Mm-hmm. Now, at the same time, and we've got one of the things I do want to talk about tonight is organization, and I do want to touch on sort of how we minimize mistakes, because ultimately we work on a trust basis. We have a lot of responsibility, and sometimes are making very high stakes calls. So first, I want to talk about the organization thing, and then we can talk a little bit more about the other stuff. But Terry, you have a lot going on. I think you said you have 6 children, which is, like, according to my father, 4 more than you need. And I'm the 3rd child, so I'll let you unpack that. Anyway, but between, family and business and a silly season and whatever, how do you stay organized in making sure that all these things happen as they should?
Well, that's a very loaded question because depending on who you ask, I might not have a lot of organization in my life if you ask my wife. But that being said, yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of systems and process, leaning on a good team, right? Finding out what you're good at. I mean, we do have a lot of things going on, and I think just really being clear on what's important, right? So I do all kinds of things literally every day to keep me sane and alive and doing all the things that we do. But when it comes, yeah, to the agronomy business, it would be just, following process, having a way that you go about stuff, kind of living by the calendar. That's a big thing. I have a daily routine of what I do, kind of in the mornings and the evenings to kind of the self-care and those kind of things. And, but I rely mainly on other people to keep me organized. So that's what I've learned, to rely on the unique abilities of people that are really organized, because I create a lot of opportunity for organized people to do stuff in our life and business. So
That is an excellent way to put it. Your brother Dan says Terry is organized. Just jokes. But you said something really important that I think I've also hit on, and we have within Real Ag as well, is that recognizing what you're good at and recognizing what you struggle at, and finding ways not to compensate but to actually address them is, like, really important. So like, Terry, so you saying that you find other people to organize these things and they're good at that, like, to me it's a brilliant way to not just try and do all the things. You actually hand certain things over to other people and say, okay, you do this so that I can do all these other things. Is that accurate?
yeah, I mean, it's been a long process over many years to get there, but essentially I try to do as little organizing of anything as possible at this point in life, because it usually doesn't go really well. But yeah, maybe it starts with just, using a calendar or a email filter, but just learning to rely on people on your team that are simplifiers or are really good organizers, and find the things that you're really good at doing. So, I mean, just kind of following those systems and getting them in place, and
Mm-hmm.
relying on a team around you, because and I mean, I didn't always have that luxury, I guess, in a sense, or I guess it's not a
Yeah.
luxury, it's more of a plan, but I just always created enough chaos that I had to find a way to solve the problem and just kind of learn and grow through that. So,
Mm-hmm. Joanna, where do you put yourself on the organizing
Well,
scale?
yeah, so in season, If it wasn't for industrial strength sticky Post-it notes, I would be lost. So that is my number one trick is, I have a pack of sticky notes in my console, and as the day goes on, I stick them up to the radio, and at the end of the day, I get home and sit in the yard for probably way too long and go through all those notes and make sure things are taken care of. It works for me. I know some other people would use electronics for things like that too, but for me, the Post-it notes work. But I think for, approaching spring is the biggest thing, right? Having a good plan, I mean, it goes out the window as soon as it rains. You still need to plan, but you have to have that plan A, B, C, and D. And don't start with plan B. Start at plan A so there's room. I guess, for example, things like, getting growers to use a good solid residual product on their corn so that, you buy yourself time and room that you can get back in there in season and just do a cleanup instead of all of a sudden showing up to the field and it's a green mat of weeds if it rained for 2 weeks. So things like that. We in Ontario, spring, it's up and down on if it's going to rain or not, and you might get 3 days in the field and 7 out. So it's usually a battle, and that includes also getting into the field to scout as well, right? So, starting with that plan A and having the ability to pivot in COVID terms, but yeah, just finding a new way after and leaving yourself room is probably my most valuable tool.
I do actually want to know, and Jason has volunteered it, but anyone who's in the chat, and we have this internal conversation within our team as well on how we all stay organized. And we do use some tools. We have a lot of processes that we've sort of put in place that we kind of have to. And we now approach things with, if a new person had to come in tomorrow and do the job, would you be able to point them in the direction of where all the sort of processes and protocols are? The answer is no. But we're better than we used to be. But Jason Vogt out of Manitoba shares that he's got a day planner, notes on his iPhone, and Farm QA is what he uses. I think, for many of us, there's going to be some sort of merging of like electronic and analog. And I would hope that the electronic takes over at some point. But Joanna, I'll be honest, I am a writer downer, and I don't know if that's just the generation or if it's because then it sticks in my brain better. But then I also have electronic things. So Terry, are you a somewhat digital and somewhat paper? Are you fully digital, fully paper? How does it work?
Yeah, I was looking at those comments too, and yeah, my probably lifeblood is my journal. I have a journal that I write in every morning. I kind of plan out my day, and it gets really chaotic and hard to read by the end of the day. And I write in it every night before, either at the end of the day or before I go to bed. And so that's kind of my personal kind of guideline. I like a lot of digital tools too. Like we use Trello within the business to run our, meetings and different things like that, and teams and whatnot. But I still find that pen to paper is, I kind of usually know how crazy my quarter is by how my journal looks by the end when I get a new one. Like, if it's really a little ragged, I do it with a busy quarter. But yeah, and then I really like to use, I hate typing. I'm half dyslexic and can't spell. So anybody that reads my emails that are not filtered is pretty scary. So I love like audio to text. I use Loom a lot, and then I'll record the audio, and then I'll run that through AI or something to summarize it or make it sound smarter, or take all the spelling or the ums and ahs out and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a lot of really cool technology hacks. Or when I was scouting, I would use audio to text a lot, but that gets some interesting things because you don't have the same spell checks there. But there is more and more technology that you can use to bridge some of that stuff. So a bit of a hybrid.
Yeah, I recognize that the AI tools especially are advancing very quickly. And we did a show just a few weeks ago about using some of these generative and also just task-oriented AI tools. But you know, some of the things that are hiccups, I think, are big ones at times. Like Terry, you mentioned the talk to text like issues when you're dealing with like product names or active ingredients or things that are not part of the normal vernacular. It doesn't usually get them right. Although I will tell you that many times, because we have sheep, if I say you, it of course will spell it YOU, but it will get urinary calculi every single time. Just so you know, everybody, if your talk to text needs that one, it'll work. Okay. We have to very quickly, we're going to go to our second read of the night, and then we'll come back. And Mark wants to know, what about cuss words? Does it spell those correctly? I never meant to say duck. Not ever. Just putting that out there. Okay. Producer Jay, if you would, let's go to our read, and then we'll get back to our conversation. Our sponsors for the Agronomists are Nutrien eKonomics, the Successors, and FMC Pre-School. FMC Preschool is an education and stewardship extension of FMC Canada with a firm mandate to bring educational value to you regarding proactive weed control and resistance management best practices. Learn more at fmcpreschool.com. All right, Producer Jay, would you go to my slide 2, I think? Because there's a couple questions on here, I think. It might not be that easy to read because I have old eyes. However, one of the things, so I wrote these up earlier as like, here are some things, there's a couple other slides. Here are some things that I want to know. But I think we've discovered, Terry, that you have no problem delegating. So I actually do want to ask both of you this, because I think as busy people, one of the key things we can do is delegate what is able to be delegated. Not everything is, we know that. But Terry, don't get the sense that you have a hard time delegating, or do you? And what would you tell someone who struggles to delegate?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that I don't have any issues with that, because there's always yeah, learning as you go, I guess. But one of the things that I mean we do a lot of work on is unique ability, and it's a bit of a tool that's kind of emulated in that entrepreneurial operating system as well too. But just essentially things that really frustrate you or you suck at or hate doing is the first things that ideally you should try to hand off, because it probably means that you're not doing it very well, and it's taking you a lot of time and you're pretty terrible at it. So yeah, a lot of those the paperwork, the details side of things is stuff that that's kind of in that bucket for me. And understanding what you're uniquely good at. Like if you're an amazing scout in the field and you're really good at communicating with the client and those kind of things, like that's the thing that you should be spending. That's and something that you really enjoy. So if you focus on those things, you can also do them really efficiently, and they usually give you more energy as time goes, or you can just have a lot of bandwidth to do that. So I think it just kind of understanding the things that really slow you down, and is there a way to work either with someone else on your team or use technology, or ideally just not do that if you can.
Mm-hmm. If you can. Let's all recognize
Yeah.
that sometimes they're just, work is called work, not super happy fun time. Okay. Like some things
Yeah.
are work, and you just have to get it done. But we're talking sort of overall. Joanna, do you struggle to delegate, or what would you tell someone who struggles to delegate?
I'm horrible at delegating.
Same.
Yeah, in personal life and work life, everywhere, I'm terrible at it. I will say over the last few years, just working with summer interns, it's been great to get that exposure, and it's a lesson for myself. I've never been in a more of a management position, so it's been great to work with interns. And I think what's helped me kind of delegate to them is recognizing their passions. We've had some awesome interns over the last few years, and we can see where their passion lies, and once we recognize that and share in the, like, you go back to that, why do we do this job, share in their joy of actually doing something they enjoy. It's easier to let them take the reins on it.
Mm-hmm. I fall into the trap of I can just do it faster, so just let me do it. But guys, it doesn't get us ahead at the end of the day because then
Mhm.
you have to do all the things. So that is a struggle for me of like just letting it go. Somebody else can do it. And Joanna, to your point, this is for my children, not just for colleagues. And Pete, you are not just sort of the team of Releg. You are very much on the team of Releg. Unhelpable, maybe. Okay, now, one of the other questions I wanted to ask is, as we've mentioned, sort of this mashing up of digital and analog and paper, but also AI. Um, we have gone through significant changes in this industry already, many more to come. But what changes have you had to navigate, and what lessons have you learned from that? Um, who wants it? Who wants to take that one first? I always start with Terry, so I'll go to Joanna. Joanna, what industry change have you had to navigate, and what lessons have you taken from that?
Yeah, thinking back on this one, there's been lots of things. Just the two things that stand out most are regulations, right? Going back to the days with the neonic ban, and really having to come up with solutions, calm growers, and reassure them that there was options available and that there could still be a crop, especially in the corn and edible bean and soys. Yeah, and it was a tough time, and I guess what I've realized from that time, it was kind of midway through my current career, is like we're never not going to have these industry changes that are going to present themselves, right? So it's just on how you approach them. We're still going to put a crop in the ground. We're still going to have a harvest, and we'll get there. It's just a matter of going to that, plan B, C, or D, being open to learning a new way and getting through it. Probably the one thing that has me most on edge, though, is resistance. It's definitely it's a mental health issue, I think, that we don't recognize as agronomists, that as we have to deal with this more and more, it becomes harder and harder to do our jobs well. We take great pride in doing our jobs well, having that clean field, or quality product that wasn't affected by insects or diseases. And it's hard if we're going through this. And I know thankfully in my area of Huron Perth in Ontario, we don't have a lot of resistance and it's manageable. But I know in other areas it's exhausting staying on top of it. And I think as both agronomists and growers, we need to recognize that fact and give yourself grace that it's definitely a hard thing to tackle. One of the things that I've been thinking a lot about is, the veterinary industry has definitely higher mental health concerns than we do because they're in it 24/7. But, if 39% of the vet industry is classified as being burnt out, where does that put us when we're facing this in the middle of the busy season with resistance popping up and just not being able to give that recommendation that we are confident in? So it definitely is a concern for me.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest industry challenge that we're going to face.
I'll be honest, I don't know that I ever really thought about it from that perspective. And that's incredibly, incredibly impactful because often, like on this show, we have covered resistance of, insecticides, fungicides, herbicides, the weeds themselves, all these sorts of things. But the agronomist who has to go out there and troubleshoot what's going on, you are the point person, right? Who has to potentially try and figure out what's actually happening. Is it a product failure? Is it resistance? Is it an application issue? Is it whatever? And yeah, absolutely. Like that is a huge burden to have to try and navigate. and it's a complicated, I'll be honest, I've been doing this quite a while, maybe not as long as some, but I still find that not everyone fully understands resistance all that well either, right? Like it is a
100%.
complicated, right? It's a complicated topic, and it could be that, you know, the weed is resistant, and maybe it's multi mode of action resistant, and maybe someone thinks they've been rotating actives, but actually they've just been rotating products, and right, like there's just so much to it. So that is a really powerful point, Joanna, and I don't know that I ever have thought about the people aspect of dealing with resistance. So that's huge. Terry, for you, what changes have you had to navigate, and what lessons have you learned?
It was great listening to Joanna. She shared something that was really cool, so it led me think of something cool too. But I was just thinking about all of the change that we've gone through in the industry and continues to happen, and just the amount of complexities and data and information that, whether it's around resistance or technology or varieties, and what agronomists do as coaches for farmers. And so I think for me, it's been just the overwhelming amount of change and information. And I always joke that I never learned anything in school, but I've been learning every day since I've left. And I really do enjoy learning about new things. It's been one of my passions. They're I mean, new technology and how to kind of figure out how to grow better crops. But I think that's the biggest challenge in the changes. I think even for myself as an agronomist, it's overwhelming to think about all of the different things and how do you learn all this knowledge. And so for me, you know, it's really been about networks and people. I'm not really that smart at a whole lot of things, but if I know a whole lot of really smart people, you just have to know who in your network, because there's no way you'll be able to learn all these things. And maybe, you know, Joanna's really passionate about the herbicide resistance and all the chemicals and stuff. So then I know, hey, I'm just going to call Joanna
Yeah.
and pick her brain on this topic because she's really knowledgeable and I'm really knowledgeable about something else and can share that knowledge. And so really, I think that's one of the things I think we need to get back to in the industry is I feel that working together is better and sharing our knowledge. We have bigger global issues to work together to try to solve, and how do we leverage that knowledge and help us all learn to keep up to the pace of change that's coming at us, and it's only getting faster every year. It's
Mm-hmm.
crazy. So
Yeah, and yeah,
for me, what it is.
Kevin shares the surround yourself with people who are smarter than you. Absolutely.
Hmm.
It is always, I never want to be the smartest person in a room. I always want to find the people that I think are smart or smart about different things. And that, I will say, is one of the things that I think we do a pretty good job of leveraging, but perhaps, you know, I would encourage everyone to try and do it more of, exactly as you pointed out, Terry, is find those people that you trust their experience and what they're passionate about, and really will get into the like nitty-gritty details of, and then share that information, share the information that you have, and they can share their expertise with you and really build that network of really amazing people. It, to me, that is so much of what I do in a day, and I love it. I love learning from other people and them sharing what it is that they know. And I will just be fascinated by it. So I'm really good for the ego, everybody, just so you know. Okay, before we switch topics, I did put this on here because one of the key parts, I think, of enjoying a job that at times in the summer can be very long hours, sometimes in terrible weather, sometimes with horrible bugs. Looking at you, Manitoba. Where do you go for the best ice cream when you're out and about on the road? Joanna?
Connie's driving.
Oh, what is bunnies?
Connie's driving.
Oh, Connie's. Where is
Russell,
Connie's?
Manitoba. Russell,
Oh, okay.
Manitoba.
In Russell.
Lots of staple
Okay.
around here, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Sills and Carmen is probably a big one. If anyone's been through the Carmen area, Sills is delightful. Joanna, what are you at?
Yeah, Farmer's Dell in Brucefield. They have a Granny Smith fries with ice cream and caramel on top. We're going next time you're
We're
up.
going. I'm going just for that. What? Really?
Yeah.
Okay. That sounds amazing. Okay. I am 100% going to that. I have never been to Connie's in Russell, but next time I'm through there, I will go. Anyone else, if you've got a favorite ice cream place, do let me know. It is really important. Okay, we do have one more read that we need to do, but we can do that in maybe a couple minutes. All right, I want to talk a little bit about when things don't go super well. Jason says that Sills is overrated. I like Bridge Drive-In. The BDI in Winnipeg is quite delightful. But again, maybe overrated. It's a very long lineup. Okay. And we've got I think it's slide, producer Jay, if you would, slide 3 of Terry's. I do want to touch on our own mistakes, but also helping other people when they're learning, training. Joanna, you shared about interns. I know for me, whether it's on our farm or whether it's in real ag, we talk about setting people up for success. Like, to me, there's nothing better than if I put people in positions to do a job and they do it well. And I want them to do it well. I want people to be successful, but it takes a lot of work to set people up for success, like a lot of the background work, a lot of the training, etc. So, Terry, you've shared some of your tips for minimizing mistakes. So walk us through how you approach some of the training that goes into making sure that new team members or even you yourself are not prone to mistakes.
Yeah, first off, I have to recognize that this is actually Mike Pome's slide that I borrowed from him from our
He
recent
was on here
training.
before, so thanks,
That's right.
Mike.
So it's
Yeah.
quite timely because he had a great presentation about some of this stuff. So I thought it was good to throw in here. But yeah, I think that as Mike has outlined here, I've been pretty fortunate not to be in too many pretty sticky situations. But I think it's just always important to find out all of the details, to slow down, to not assume. I think a lot of times I've always had that motto of you don't need to know everything. And so I usually, even if I think I know something, I usually go back to the network of who's and people to get as much information as feedback as you can to ensure that you've looked at all the angles, you don't have any blind spots, and just kind of be diligent, right? And make sure that you didn't miss anything. When things go wrong, I learned that early working as an actually ag mechanic was my first career, and just letting the farmer know that, hey, you're just here to help. You're going to do everything that you can. You know, it's a bad situation or you're unhappy, so let's figure out how to get through it. And I think that most people really recognize that, hey, if maybe you made a mistake or something went wrong, if you own up to that, that's, people will work with you. But if you make excuses or try to deflect that, maybe that wasn't your issue, or just, yeah, that usually doesn't get received very well. So that's some of my experience, I guess.
Joanna, how do you approach obviously mistakes happen, and we could do a whole show just on navigating when things go wrong. But how do you proactively approach sort of trying to minimize mistakes, either for yourself or for your team or other people?
Yeah, like mistakes, they are going to happen. And if you don't learn from the mistake, that's the biggest thing that is a mistake, is not learning from it. So, I mean, especially in agronomy, in there's so much happening. It's such a high pressure, narrow little season that it is going to happen. But if you don't learn from it, it's going to just come back and bite you again at some point in your career. One of the things I was recently at a keynote address, and it was a sports psychologist. I can't remember her name right now, but she's worked with Team Canada and different NHL teams. And she said, when you make a mistake, she encourages her players, when you make a mistake, to actually work through what happened and then reset the mind and say, okay, how should it have happened? And go forward with that mentality. And I think that's the biggest thing, is when you do make a mistake is pushing forward. There's been, when I think about in my career. There's been, mix-ups with seed, mix-ups with crop protection products. It happens, but if you don't work through it and know exactly the root cause of why it happened, then you're not going to change anything in the future.
Yeah, and I think all of us naturally, and especially, when we're younger, less experienced, maybe not as emotionally intelligent, it's a very natural thing to be like, no, it wasn't my fault, right? But accountability and taking responsibility for it is really important. But it is true, and I love that Mike's got it here too, to always go through the steps. That is also, Joanna, sort of in line with when something does go wrong or there is a mistake, going back and figuring out, okay, so what broke down, right? Like, was it an organizational issue? Was it a labeling issue? Was it I was rushing? Was it all those things, right? To actually delve into where things went wrong and owning it, and realistically, that's the best way to make sure it doesn't happen again or happen to someone else, really.
Yeah.
Right?
So share your experience so it doesn't happen to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. And Jason shares the third point is super important. One, our summer student field scouts collect the field data and talk to the grower, but they don't make any recommendations. And this is, I think, a really key part. Like, everybody's got to start somewhere. Everybody's got to learn. But at the same time, you can't expect to send, a summer student out and expect them to be a 20-year experienced agronomist to make those kind of recommendations. You have to set them up to do the job that they're capable of and to learn that way, which I think is really important as well. Okay, let's go to our last read of the night, right, Producer Jay? And we'll do that, and then we've got some great comments that are rolling in that I want to also talk about, and we've got a few other topics to cover as well. Our sponsors for the Agronomists are FMC Pre-School, Nutrien eKonomics, and the Successors. Real Agriculture highlights the next generation of agriculturists, the up-and-comers. Featuring interviews with the young crowd, the Successors dives into mentorship, marketing, implementing new ideas on the farm, careers off the farm, and so much more. Download from Real Agriculture's podcast feed wherever you get your podcasts, or visit realagriculture.com/successors. All right. I feel like my chair has slowly been sinking during this evening, and I'm just getting like lower and lower on the
shorter.
Anyway,
more shorter.
Thanks, Sorry. Joanna. I know. Yeah. Okay. Ellen comments, and I think this is a great comment. Thank you, Ellen. I think it's important to reinforce, particularly with younger or new staff, that everyone makes mistakes, and it's important to make sure those mistakes are recorded so they can be accounted for. I think it's a really good point, but it also can sometimes be uncomfortable. To have to own up to them. So, Terry, when it comes to, say, newer or less experienced staff, how do you approach that? Is that a good way to approach it?
Well, I think it's part of, I agree with this statement. I think it's one of the things that we talked about. It wasn't on this slide, but you have to be able to earn, kind of the right or the experience in order to be in a position and to make, recommendations or to make those decisions. So it's also part of the responsibility of the team or the employer to ensure that they're not setting up someone for failure. And I also, it's just one of the things that in working with growers, I think it's part of a job of a good advisor, agronomist. At the end of the day, I've always said that you want to provide all of the information to your clients so that they feel confident about the decision that ultimately they need to make. Like, no matter what the recommendation is, they need to make the final call on what it is. And sometimes you have to have a lot of confidence in what that may be, but it's really, I think, about providing that information. And I think where the inexperience comes in is not having that confidence to be like, hey, I don't know the answer. I've always said, like, if I don't have 100% confidence, I'm going to go do the research, come back to you and say, this is what I think, but this is also what I got back from these sources, right? And go from there. So I think, yeah, we want to make it comfortable for people to learn and grow and be excited to get to the next level too. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Ellen adds, important to look for solutions to the mistakes rather than blame. Absolutely. I think we do really have to shift sometimes the conversation. At the same time, there are real consequences sometimes like incredibly expensive consequences to mistakes. So we also can't downplay just and that I think that maybe is half the battle, is explaining, you know, we want to make sure something worse doesn't happen, or that this doesn't happen over and over, to actually um, nip it in the bud. Peter says, Ellen, the boss gets the blame. That's Peter. He's the boss. Just blame him. Okay, so we have in our last bit of time, also, Peter says that he doesn't have time to stop for ice cream, so Peter is doing it wrong. And that is what I want to spend our last 10 minutes on, is taking care of the individual, the person. So producer Jay, will you put up my hastily made slide 3? And I think it is really important that as individuals, we figure out how we manage through the silly season. And we've maybe touched on some of these things, but I think it's really important that we talk about the stress level at times, the lack of sleep at times, perhaps living off of granola bars and coffee, that can happen. And sometimes we end up maybe not burnt out, but probably not in a great spot, or maybe burnt out. Um, Joanna, I'll start with you. Any tips on taking care of yourself during the busy season?
Yeah, I'm a plant person. I love to be surrounded with green and the smells, everything that goes along with plants. But I also don't want to burn out on just fields of plants. So one of the things I do, if I have that half an hour between calls and time, I'll stop at a greenhouse and just go for a walk. Thankfully, there's lots around in my territory that I can, grab a little bit of lunch out of my console of granola bars and go for a walk in a greenhouse and get a different view of plants. So that's one of the things I do during the day. The other thing I do, once I'm done going through my Post-it notes sitting in the yard, I'll get out, and my garden is actually between where I park my truck and my house. So I'm forced to walk through my garden. I'll maybe pull some weeds. Some days it might be an hour before I actually make my way into the house, just spending a little bit of time decompressing and tending to the garden, just giving myself that break.
Mm-hmm. It's very strategic that it's both a physical separation, like on the way to the house, and also an activity. I like that. And I know it was on purpose. So there you go. Terry, how about you? How do you manage? You mentioned you journal, which I think is fantastic. I try to do it. I'm better some weeks than others. But how do you sort of stay healthy, stay in the zone?
Yeah, it's an interesting question because when you reflect on this as agronomists, the amount of and farmers, the amount of money, time, resources, analytics, soil testing, tissue testing, field walking we do to take care of our crops is exponentially more than most people do to take care of themselves, which is really
Mm-hmm.
crazy when you think about it. How often are people testing their blood or checking their analytics and those kind of things? And so it's a really interesting thing when you think about it that way. And I think something that I learned about a bit more quite a few years ago when I started coach is that in order for you to, it's a bit counterintuitive to what most people think, but if you want to take care of your clients and your family and your business well, you kind of have to take care of yourself first, which was totally the counter thing that I did a lot of years ago. And so I think, yeah, just finding out what those self-care things are for you, and it's going to be different for everybody. By creating those little habits and routines. I have a really religious morning kind of routine that I do every day, and an evening routine, and those things during the day. I like to get out for a walk. Ironically, if you're scouting fields, walking fields all day, you maybe not need to go and get out for another walk in the field, right? But just, yeah, finding out what those things are, but also taking care of your own nutrition and water and food and the right kind of food and getting rest. Like I used to kind of have the mentality of sleep when you're dead, right? And now I'm like, man, if I could get more sleep, that would be amazing, because it just makes everything in life better, right? And so I always tell my kids when they don't want to go to bed, I'm like, you will change that mindset eventually. But yeah, just all those little things. if we looked at ourselves a little bit more like we look at our clients' crops, we would probably do a lot of things quite different.
Guilty as charged. I love the idea of the blood test as like a soil test type, or like it's really quite remarkable how little we take care of ourselves at times. And it's true. We would be fired as agronomists if we took care of our clients' crops like we take care of ourselves sometimes. So there you go. Mark asks, are potato chips and a shot of moonshine the same as granola bars and Gatorade? No, they are not. However, in a pinch, it's what gets you through. I will tell you that it is, my hat goes off to all of you who are doing a lot of crop walking, because they're incredibly long days. Even if you're using some sort of imaging, even there's still a ton of windshield time, there's still a ton of walking, lots of notes, lots of phone calls. It is incredibly intense. That is one of my other questions, other than ice cream, is favorite genre of music while driving. When you know you've got a lot of screen time ahead of you, what are you picking? Terry?
Oh man, I mean, just about everything depends on the day, but yeah, I love music. I love a good windshield time with some good tunes. So could be anything from Metallica to Garth Brooks, depending on the day and everything in between. So
I like it. Joanna, please say either 90s country or 90s hip hop. One or the other.
Sorry, no, can't do
Okay.
it.
I can do both.
I was gonna say, really falling down like the rabbit hole of 70s
Oh
and
no.
80s road trip
What?
songs. There's
Really?
great set lists of
Okay.
that. But anyways,
Yeah.
podcasts are my go-to now, though.
Okay.
I
Yep.
don't listen to much music anymore, except when I'm with my daughter and having to listen to, well,
Yes.
all of her songs.
There's
But
a lot of Taylor
yeah,
Swift happening.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, podcasts and not always ag related either. Like I think
Oh,
sometimes we
good.
need to pull ourselves out of that realm.
Yes.
No offense, real ag, but
No, it's okay.
like
Yeah.
if you want to go down the true crime road, or I'm really
I can't do
addicted to
true crime.
cult podcasts right now. Like
Is
can't
it a
get
cult?
enough of them. Yeah, but
It always is.
do
Spoiler
something
alert.
to break to
Yeah.
give your mind that little break.
Mm-hmm. I will tell you that, and of course, this is my job is Relag, but I get into Chris's truck and he'll have Relag radio on, and I'll be like, no offense, but I turn it off every time because I don't want to hear myself or hear Sean. I hear it all the time. So I'm glad other people listen, but sometimes you need a break. Anyway, I will tell you, anyone on Spotify, there is an excellent 90s country playlist that if that doesn't get you like scooting your boots, I don't know what's going to do it. So anyway, but Metallica also strong choice, Terry. I like it. When you really need to, get some rage out. All good. Actually, Rage Against the Machine also good. For such things.
very good.
Anyway, yeah, very good. Okay. We are just about out of time. I thank you both very much. This is this is an episode we're trying to do maybe once a quarter. Do some, a bit of a different thing. I don't think we really talked much about any agronomy, which is okay, because what is it? Sometimes you have to work on the business, not in the business, and we all need to, I think, have some of these conversations. So I will certainly open it up. Anyone, if you've got questions we didn't get to tonight, or if you've got any insight or you want to share some of the things that have worked well for you for staying sane in the busy season, please, you can send me an email, lsmith@realagriculture.com. And if you've got a question for Terry or Joanna, I can connect you with them as well. And I thank you both very much for saying yes. Finally, Joanna. And Terry, also, I'll let Mike know that you used his slide and that it was great. And so I appreciate that. Yes. So thank you both for joining me here on The Agronomist. I appreciate it very much.
It's always fun to chat.
Yes. Okay. And I am going to be down to get whatever that apple pie thing ice cream is. I will post it online and never share. All right. Next week, we are going to be talking about terminating cover crops in the spring. So join me next week, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on The Agronomists. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And thank you to my guests. Have a great week, everybody. Cheers.